Straight ahead, abortion rights battle. Will the Democrats' push for reproductive rights have any impact on the outcome of the presidential and Senate races in Texas? We speak with two Texas women who make their case. Key deadline, what you need to know about the upcoming election and how to make sure you're still eligible to vote. And squaring off, we'll look at how Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump can each win and lose their debate this week. Good morning, I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Hope you're having a great weekend. We begin this Sunday morning with abortion or reproductive rights and whether this issue will have an impact on the presidential and Senate races in Texas. Democrats are making this one of their top priority issues. Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, want to take Roe v. Wade, which was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court 2 years ago, and make the protections into federal law. North Texas Congressman Colin Allred agrees and has also campaigned hard on this issue as he hopes to unseat Republican Senator Ted Cruz. He has regularly featured women who sued the state of Texas, saying vague rules as part of the state's abortion ban meant they had to leave Texas to get an abortion during their troubled pregnancies. Kate Cox of Dallas is among the women who've gone public and spoke during an Allred rally to warn people about their stories of heartache.
I was shocked to find out I didn't qualify for any kind of exception to the abortion laws, that the state of Texas wanted me to continue a pregnancy where I would have to wait for my baby to die and put my own health at risk.
On the other side, Republicans, including former President Donald Trump and Senator Cruz, who agree with the Supreme Court's decision and say abortion and reproductive rights should be decided by each state, not Congress. Groups like Concerned Women for America are going across the country in their big pink bus on their She Prays, She Votes tour. They stopped in Hearst last month to rally women to vote and stay true to their values and say many women are not focused on abortion or reproductive rights, but the economy and affordability and their children's education.
And force every state to be like California. They want a California Texas. Texas has a right to have its own views, its own laws on abortion. We worked hard to overturn Roe specifically so that could happen.
We spoke with two Texas women, former Dallas County Republican Party Chair Jennifer Stoddard-Hoydu and Democratic State Representative Donna Howard of Austin, chair of the Texas Women's Health Caucus, which is the largest caucus in the country focused on advancing women's health policy. We'll start with Representative Howard, who believes abortion and reproductive rights will have more impact on the political races this year than 2 years ago after Roe v. Wade was overturned.
A lot has happened since the last election cycle and this one. Primarily, I think, all of the women, and now men too, who have publicly and on a national scale talked about the issues that they've had with not getting the medical care that they've needed with pregnancy complications, being on the brink of dying before they can get medical interventions. So I think that has really raised the consciousness of a lot of folks, more so than it was prior to the last election cycle, which of course, even at that time, some displeasure from Republicans in particular about the extreme bans here in Texas and how we had gone too far did have an impact on the last legislative session. We did not see more of an effort to do anything more with abortions in terms of some of the things that were discussed, like preventing people from being able to cross state lines, preventing employers from being able to provide assistance to their employees. Those kinds of things didn't happen. And in fact, we saw an effort to do more to help women access health care.
Most polls still show the economy, inflation, border security remain the top concerns, and abortion, reproductive rights is further down the list. So given that, how do you expect it to be more of an impact, to play more of a deciding role, perhaps, in some of these races?
Well, I would suggest that abortion is an economic issue because it impacts the trajectory, the journey, the destiny of women who find themselves with unplanned pregnancies. I came of age before Roe v. Wade. I know what it was like when you didn't have a choice. I've seen over the past half century women be able to make choices about their education, about their employment, about if and when to have a family. And it has allowed them to be more a part of our economy, quite frankly.
As you might expect, former Dallas County GOP Chair Jennifer Stoddard-Hoydu believes Texans are more focused on kitchen table issues.
People's views on abortion always have an impact. I mean, to say they don't would be wrong, but you can see in the polling that's out, the impact for this election as compared to the midterms is less than half. So right before the midterms, right after the Dobbs decision, about 27% of the voters said that abortion was their top issue. And now I just read an article on CNN the other day, Jack, and it's down to 12%. And that's because states are now taking care of the abortion issue state by state, however their electorate sees it. And in addition, the economy and inflation, immigration, crime, and our foreign policy, what's going on with the wars, in the Middle East and in Ukraine, really has ramped up as the number one issues to most voters.
And do you agree with former President Trump's position that this is best left up to the states? I know not every Republican or conservative feels that way.
Yeah, abortion is a very personal issue for everyone, and there's a lot of different views, but I do believe the Dobbs decision is correct in that the Constitution did not mandate a right for abortion. Therefore, it is a state issue.
And I've heard a variety of opinions. One Democrat told me recently that they believe because what happened with a lot of women have come forward and have shared their stories about their troubled pregnancies and having to leave the state to get an abortion. They think that will really resonate with voters this time in a way that it hadn't before. What do you say to that?
I just don't see it. The economy is in big trouble. We have serious inflation. People can't afford to fill their cars up with gas. Grocery prices are up 25%. We have millions of people coming across the border. We have no idea who they are, where they came from. And then crime. Crime is a number one issue especially for mothers and suburban moms. They're more concerned about the safety of their children in their neighborhoods than they are about the abortion issue.
The economy, inflation, along with border security remain the top concerns by Texans, according to the polls, with abortion far behind. Even so, there's a new poll out just released that shows where Texans are when it comes to the state's near abortion ban. The UT and Texas Politics Project poll shows nearly half, 49%, believe abortion laws in Texas should be less strict. 23% say they want abortion laws to be more strict. 20% say the laws should be left where they are now. 9% say they don't know or have no opinion. In the presidential race, the same poll shows former President Donald Trump with a 5 percentage point lead over Vice President Kamala Harris, 49 to 44%. 9% say they want someone else, while 6% say they are undecided. And in the Senate race, the UT Texas Politics Project poll shows two-term Republican Ted Cruz has an 8 percentage point lead over his Democratic challenger, Colin Allred, with a 44 to 36 percentage point lead. Libertarian Ted Brown has 2%. 4% say they want someone else, while 14% say they are undecided. And in the hotly contested Senate race, both Cruz and Allred made campaign stops in North Texas last week. In Dallas and Fort Worth, Allred spoke at labor rallies on the holiday Monday. At the AFL-CIO breakfast in Dallas, Allred touted his union credentials, being a member of the NFL Players Union when he played for the Tennessee Titans.
Our union is strong because we're all in it together. And that sounded pretty good to me. So when you elect me to the United States Senate, you'd be electing a card-carrying union member.
In Carrollton last week, Senator Cruz picked up the endorsements from the Texas Association of Business and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They held a news conference inside the service bay at the Sam Pack Ford dealership, and some of the mechanics stood behind them.
Every time we lessen taxes, we simplify the tax code, every time we repeal job-killing regulations, the result is more jobs.
Both Cruz and Allred also traveled across the state this past week as they raced to Election Day. And the Democratic vice presidential nominee, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, will be in Dallas tomorrow for a fundraiser for the campaign. It's a private gathering and no public event is scheduled. Now to our weekly segment tracking the 7 presidential battleground states where the 2024 election will be won. And just when you thought the race couldn't have grown any tighter, the Real Clear Politics average of polls shows it has. And we're going to start in the Southwest, Arizona, where former President Donald Trump increased his lead over Vice President Kamala Harris from the last week to 1 percentage point. In Nevada, Harris now leads Trump by 0.6 percentage points. She has also taken a slight lead in Georgia, 0.1 percentage points. In Wisconsin, Harris leads by 1.4 percentage points, and this is now the largest margin in any of these 7 states. Her lead in Michigan has shrunk from last week to 1.1 percentage point. Pennsylvania, the biggest prize, is now officially tied. And in North Carolina, Trump clings to a lead of 0.7 percentage points. This is why this presidential debate on Tuesday is seen as crucial, because there is still time for either candidate to change the dynamics of the race. And coming up later, we'll preview the big debate and what Vice President Harris and former President Trump must do and must avoid if they want to win their face-off. But next, the race for Texas House Speaker heats up as a 3rd Republican is now challenging incumbent Dade Phelan as he brings in a political heavyweight to help him get reelected by members of the House when Eye on Politics returns. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. The race for Texas House Speaker is heating up. The current Speaker, Dade Phelan, announced that former Texas Governor Rick Perry has joined his team as a senior advisor. Perry campaigned for Phelan earlier this year during a polarizing primary fight against 2 other candidates in his home district in the Beaumont area. Phelan won in a runoff. The Speaker also hired a new chief of staff. Also last week, a 3rd Republican challenged Phelan for the position during the next legislative session starting in January. Representative David Cook of Mansfield said last week he's running. Representatives Tom Oliverson of the Houston area and Shelby Slauson of Stephenville previously announced they're going for it as well. We spoke with Travis County GOP Chair and Republican consultant Matt Makoviak, who said Phelan's moves show this race is still very much open.
Yeah, I don't think Perry's a huge surprise. Perry was a strong endorser of Speaker Phelan in his primary. They've been friends since Dade was a much younger guy. It's not just that. It's also, and this is a staff thing, but it is directionally important. And I think something insiders are talking about, Phelan just changed chiefs of staff and brought on Mike Toomey, who has been Governor Perry's actually chief of staff. It's one of the most respected government affairs professionals in our state. And that's a pretty strong move as well. So I think Phelan is clearly going to fight for this. That's what this signals. And they recognize they have some more work to do, because if he had 76 votes and had this thing locked down, he'd already have announced that. That said, the fact that you have David Cook, who's a respected member of the House from Mansfield, jump in is also a sign that this thing is up for grabs and it's unpredictable.
So do you think that the addition of Perry and Toomey to Phelan's team is enough to make a difference?
I think it matters with Perry, yes. I mean, I think with Perry, he has a lot of respect in the A&M community, he has a lot of respect in West Texas, he has a lot of respect in East Texas. He'll have House members that he's known for a very, very long time. I'm not saying it's a guarantee of an outcome, but it is a strong move. He's widely respected. He was extremely successful for governor.
How is this all going to play out and when?
Yeah, look, in the end, what happens is as soon as you have 76 votes, you announce it, because you go from 76 to 145 in a day or two, because once you have a majority, you're basically set. And no one wants to be the last person that joins the next speaker.
Makoviak said he expects there will be a lot of animosity between the House and Senate next session, and as a result, he believes Governor Abbott will sign a far lower number of bills than in previous sessions. The November election is looming, but it's still not clear where Tarrant County voters will be able to cast an early ballot. County commissioners failed to approve the list of 50 sites last week after some heated debate about whether polling locations belong on college campuses. The Tarrant County Elections Administrator told commissioners finding early voting sites is often a struggle because of the 12-day commitment and the hours needed. 49 of the 50 proposed locations were used during the primaries this year. 8 of them are on college campuses. Judge Tim O'Hare called the number and proximity of the early voting sites, quote, a waste of money and manpower. He believes the campus locations are geared to getting a specific segment of the population to vote. The Democratic commissioners argued against reducing access for voters.
So I think the purpose of choosing locations to vote is to give the biggest access to the public, and some of these campuses do not provide the best access to the public. But I do see that it is definitely an attempt to get more students to vote. I don't believe that's the role of the Commissioners Court to go make sure we get more of this group to vote or more of that group to vote.
It's not trying to favor one group over another. It's trying to make it easier for people to vote. And that is the job of this Commissioners Court, to make it easier for everyone to vote.
Commissioners did approve the list of 350 Election Day voting sites. As early voting and Election Day draw closer, there's an important deadline coming up that you need to know about, especially if you're planning to vote. Sarah Jenkins has this week's brief.
If you're not registered to vote in the November 2024 general election, the deadline to register is October 7th. Don't know if you're registered? You can check that and find your polling location at votetexas.gov. If you recently moved, changed your name, or need to update any other details, the October 7th deadline is also your last chance to make those changes. Early voting begins October 21st and ends November 1st. If you want to vote by mail, the last day to apply is October 25th. In-person voting is November 5th. Voters must present one of 7 acceptable forms of identification at the polls according to Texas law. The 7 acceptable forms include Texas driver license, Texas election ID certificate, Texas personal ID card, Texas handgun license, U.S. citizenship certificate with photo, a U.S. military ID card, or a U.S. passport.
All right, coming up, what Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump must do and must avoid if they want to win Tuesday's big debate. When Eye on Politics comes right back. Now to Tuesday's big debate. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will be squaring off for what may be their only time. As we showed you earlier, this race is incredibly close in the 7 battleground states, and we asked SMU's Director of Debate and Debate Professor Ben Voth what each candidate must do and must avoid to win Tuesday night.
I think that both sides are kind of competing for a very narrow set of voters that haven't decided. And so it's now about turnout. And so not making a mistake that demobilizes their side is sort of critical. And there's a lot of risk to that because they're both, in some sense, we can see it that they're trying to move to the middle and a little bit contradicting maybe some of their base arguments on the left and right reciprocally. And so there's a risk of exposure like, hey, that's not the position you took 6 months ago on this issue. And so you're demobilizing your base. But at the same time, they're trying to dip into that undecided independent vote. And so that's the hard substantive part of the judgment is like, are they overreaching into the middle, contradicting base arguments that they made 6 months ago? And I think that's the interesting thing to try to judge. I will say I think the Harris campaign is facing kind of a narrowing platform right now, where initially 3 months ago, just the surge of not having Biden on the ticket really helped. But now there's really a consideration of like, okay, what are your positions versus Biden's positions? What are your positions versus your previous positions, like in 2020 or something like that? Whereas I think Trump kind of continues to kind of be himself, but he is also moving some into the center, like on abortion and things like that. And so those are the risks they're going to try to navigate as they do the debate on Tuesday night, I think.
Anything that each of them needs to avoid?
Well, they want to avoid really significant gaffes. I mean, the June 27th debate is definitely looming in everybody's eyes. Like if you make some sort of serious mistake that can be replayed over and over again, where you really misstate some sort of really obvious thing, that's going to hurt.
When you look at how close the race is in these 7 battleground states, everything really within 1.5 percentage points, isn't this debate could be crucial in making people's minds up who are undecided, right?
Yeah, I do think in terms of presidential election history, we're looking at a very unique point in time where this debate could be decisive, because a small 1 or 2% move by the electorate would decide the election. And so they are going to have to, and they will, we already can see it, that they're going to reach into that center where they think the undecideds are. And so for Trump, he's probably going to try to soften on abortion, and for her, she may try to soften on her border positions and try to get into that middle and try to pull that 1 or 2% of people who maybe haven't still made up their minds to their side. And that is a really critical thing. This is a very decisive moment in history, and this could be one of the most important debates in presidential election history in terms of the ramifications of it.
Get your popcorn ready. That's all for Eye on Politics this week. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening at CBS News Texas. Thanks for watching. Certainly hope to see you again next Sunday. And from all of us here, have a great weekend.